Have you ever caught yourself replaying a moment from years ago, wishing you had said something different, done something better, or just walked away sooner? Why living in the past is the biggest mistake of your life isn't just about nostalgia. It's about how your own mind becomes the trap. The memories feel safe, familiar, even comforting. But what if I told you that the more you return to them, the more of your life you quietly abandon? It's like trying to plant a garden on burned soil. You keep watering it, hoping something will grow, but all you get are ghosts of what used to be. Or it's like trying to cross a bridge while staring at the ruins behind you. Your feet move forward, but your heart never arrives. Just like the ashes and the ruined path, the past may explain you, but it cannot carry you. Because while you think you're holding on to memory, it's actually holding on to you. And the longer you stay there, the more you delay the peace, the growth, and the life waiting right in front of you. So, how do you finally let go of what's behind you and return to what's still possible? Stay with me until the end, because the last truth we uncover might just be the key you didn't know you were holding. Let's begin. Number 1, it traps you in what you can't change. Let's talk about one of the most quietly destructive habits, someone who's mentally stuck in the past. This is the person who replays old mistakes, relives painful memories, or clings to who they used to be. At first it might feel like reflection, maybe even healing, but over time, that reflection turns into obsession. They start making decisions based on guilt, regret, or nostalgia, and without realizing it, they trap themselves in a place where growth is impossible. Because here's the truth. When you live in the past, you're pouring your energy into something that cannot be undone. It's like trying to breathe life into ashes. You hold on, hoping for warmth, but all you get is smoke. Here's the reality. The past can't be fixed, refought, or relived. No matter how many times you revisit it in your mind, it remains exactly the same. But what does change is you, the version of yourself that gets dragged back into old memories, old mistakes, old pain. The more time you spend there, the more distant you become from the present. And that's the real tragedy. Because while you're caught up in what was, you're missing out on what could be. You're blind to the growth, the peace, and the opportunity that exist right here, right now. You can't rewrite what happened, but you can write what happens next. And the only way to do that is to stop looking backward. This is where Stoic wisdom cuts through with clarity. Heraclitus said it best. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man. Think about that. Life is always flowing forward. You are not the same person you were when those moments happened. So why keep dragging yourself back to a version of yourself that no longer exists? Growth only happens in motion, and motion only happens when you let go. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Eric, went through a brutal breakup. For years, he carried the pain like a backpack full of bricks. He replayed every conversation, every argument, every sign he missed. He told himself if he had done one thing differently, it all could have changed. But nothing changed, except that Eric slowly lost touch with the life unfolding in front of him. He turned down new opportunities, kept people at a distance, and let the weight of the past shape his present. It wasn't until he realized he was living in a memory instead of the moment that he started to wake up. And once he stopped feeding energy into what couldn't be changed, he finally started changing himself. So how do you stop living in the past? First, stop romanticizing or punishing yourself with what's already done. Second, accept that healing doesn't mean forgetting, It means choosing not to be ruled by it. And third, shift your attention back to now, this moment, because that's where power lives. At the end of the day, living in the past won't bring you peace. It'll only steal the future you still have. Growth begins the moment you stop clinging to what can't be changed and start showing up fully for what still can. Number 2, it blinds you to what's in front of you. Let's talk about how clinging to the past can blind you to everything good in your life, and why living in the past is the biggest mistake of your life. It doesn't just keep you stuck in old memories, it shuts down your ability to see what's happening right now. You miss new chances, overlook good people, and ignore fresh opportunities, not because they aren't there, but because your eyes are locked on a version of life that no longer exists. You become so consumed with what was that you stop noticing what still can be. And here's the hard truth. The longer you stare backward, the less you see forward. The past becomes a fog that clouds your present. Maybe you're still thinking about a relationship that ended years ago, or a job you lost, or a mistake you wish you could undo. And while you replay those moments in your head, life keeps moving. People grow, doors open, new chapters begin. But you're not there to witness any of it. You're too busy staring at a door that's already closed. This is exactly what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "Don't let your reflection on the past steal what remains of your present." That's not just a quote, it's a warning. Every moment you spend trapped in the past is a moment of the present that slips through your fingers. The longer you look behind you, the more you lose sight of the life that's unfolding right in front of you. Let me tell you about a woman I know. Let's call her Michelle. After losing her father, she clung to the past like it was the only way to keep him close. She stopped going out. She ignored friends. She couldn't focus on work. And even when new opportunities came her way, career moves, meaningful relationships, travel, she pushed them all aside. She thought she was honoring her grief, but in reality, she was letting it take over her life. One day, she came across an old letter from her father that ended with, "Keep living. Don't pause your life for anything, not even me." That moment broke her, and it woke her up. She realized her father's memory didn't live in the pain, it lived in how she carried herself forward. So how do you stop being blinded by the past? First, acknowledge what you lost, but don't confuse remembering with reliving. Second, look around. Ask yourself, what in your life needs your attention now? And third, commit to presence. Stop giving so much weight to what's already gone and start pouring energy into what's still unfolding. At the end of the day, life only moves one way, forward. And if your eyes are always looking back, you'll miss the beauty standing right in front of you. Let the past be a chapter, not the whole book, because the story's not over and there's still so much left to write. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 3, it makes you a prisoner of regret. Let's talk about how living in past pain turns into emotional captivity, and why living in the past is the biggest mistake of your life. It doesn't just slow your progress, it chains you to regret. Every time you replay that mistake, that failure, or that heartbreak, you're not just remembering it, you're reliving it. You're feeding it. You're building a mental prison, one memory at a time. And then, without even realizing it, you hand the key to guilt and lock yourself in. Here's the brutal truth. Regret doesn't heal you. It punishes you. You start believing that because you failed once, you'll fail again. That because you hurt someone, you don't deserve to move forward. You rehearse the same conversation in your mind. Wish you could go back and make a different choice, and dwell on the version of you that no longer exists. And the more you do it, the more it becomes your identity, not just something that happened, but something you believe defines you. This is exactly what Seneca meant when he said, "He who clings to pain cannot walk forward." When you refuse to let go of regret, you're not protecting yourself, you're paralyzing yourself. You stay stuck in cycles of self-blame and rumination, while life quietly moves on without you. You can't see the road ahead because you're too focused on the wreckage behind you. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him David, made a huge mistake early in his career. He misjudged a deal, lost a major client, and his team paid the price. Years later, even after rebuilding his career, he still felt haunted by it. He turned down leadership roles, avoided high-stakes projects, and kept his ideas to himself, not because he wasn't capable, but because he couldn't stop punishing himself for what happened years ago. One day, a younger colleague made a similar mistake and came to David for advice. And as David consoled him, he said something that stopped himself cold. "One mistake doesn't make you unworthy of trust. It just means you're human." That was the moment David realized. He had forgiven someone else for the exact thing he refused to forgive in himself. So how do you break free from regret? First, take ownership, but don't confuse responsibility with self-punishment. Second, give yourself permission to grow beyond the moment you regret. You are not that version of you anymore. And third, shift your focus. The past cannot be rewritten, but your future is still unwritten, and that's where your energy belongs. At the end of the day, regret is only useful if it leads to wisdom, not if it becomes a life sentence. You don't have to be a prisoner of your past. You just have to stop handing the key to guilt and start walking forward. Number 4, it reopens wounds that could have healed. Let's talk about how revisiting pain over and over can quietly destroy your peace, and why living in the past is the biggest mistake of your life. When you constantly return to moments that broke you, you're not just remembering what happened, you're reopening the wounds. It's like picking at a scar every time it begins to close. Healing isn't just delayed, it's reversed. What could have become wisdom gets stuck as pain, and you start confusing survival with suffering. Here's the truth. Healing requires distance. Emotional wounds, like physical ones, need time and space to recover. But when you keep reliving the hurt, what they said, what they did, how you felt, you keep yourself emotionally stuck in that exact moment. You rob yourself of progress. You don't move forward because part of you is still bleeding inside a memory. It's no longer about what happened. It's about how tightly you're holding on to it. And this is where Stoic wisdom brings clarity. Epictetus said, "Time heals what reason can accept." Meaning, healing happens not just with the passage of time, but with the decision to let go. When you revisit pain but never release it, you don't gain insight. You relive injury. The mind can't move forward when it's anchored to what hurt it. And if you're not careful, the past doesn't just haunt you, it shapes your identity. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Olivia, went through a devastating betrayal by a close friend. For months, she couldn't stop replaying it. Every conversation they ever had now felt fake. Every laugh, every memory, tainted. Even long after the friendship ended, Olivia would bring it up in new conversations, scroll through old texts, dissect what she missed. And though time passed, the pain didn't fade. Why? Because she kept reopening it. She didn't let the wound scar over. She kept it raw. And over time, she realized that the hurt didn't live in what her friend did. It lived in how tightly she clung to the moment it happened. So how do you stop reopening old wounds? First, notice the cycle. If you keep thinking about the same hurt, ask yourself, am I healing or just hurting myself again? Second, replace rumination with reflection. Instead of just replaying the pain, ask what it taught you. And third, create space. Emotional healing requires boundaries, from the memory, from the person, even from yourself. At the end of the day, the past will always try to call you back. But healing only begins when you stop answering. Wounds are meant to close, and the moment you stop tearing them open, they finally get the chance to become something else: wisdom, strength, and peace. Don't keep feeding pain that's already had its time. Let it go and give yourself permission to truly heal. If you've watched the video this far, don't forget to leave a comment with a thank God and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 5. It strengthens the voice of self-doubt. Let's talk about how the past quietly becomes your biggest enemy when you stay stuck in it, and why living in the past is the biggest mistake of your life. The past is where your failures echo loudest. It's where every misstep, every bad decision, every painful moment lives on repeat. And the more time you spend there, the more those echoes get louder. What was once just a mistake becomes a message. You'll never change. What was once a failure becomes an identity. Slowly, that voice of doubt takes root in your mind, whispering that who you were is who you'll always be. Here's the truth. The past doesn't just remind you of what went wrong, it tries to convince you that nothing will ever go right. You start believing that your past defines your future, that because you failed once, you'll always fail, that because you were hurt, you'll always be broken. And that's the trap. Living in the past keeps you from seeing who you're becoming, because it's constantly pulling you back to who you used to be. And this is where Stoic wisdom becomes your shield. Marcus Aurelius said, "You are not your failures, you are your response to them." That one sentence changes everything. It reminds you that failure isn't final, that what matters isn't the mistake, it's what you do after. The past can only control you if you keep giving it a voice. But the moment you decide to respond differently, to show up with more strength, more clarity, more self-respect, that's when you begin to take your power back. Let me tell you a story. A man I know, let's call him Brian, used to carry the shame of a failed business like it was tattooed on his soul. He poured everything into it, time, money, heart, and it still collapsed. After that, he stopped taking risks. He stopped trusting his own judgment. Even years later, every time a new opportunity came up, that voice from his past would creep in. You failed once, you'll fail again. But one day, after turning down yet another opportunity, Brian had a realization. It wasn't his failure holding him back anymore. It was his memory of it. He'd let one version of himself decide the fate of every version that followed. And that's when he made a shift. He started to believe he could be something beyond what he'd been. He responded differently. So how do you quiet the voice of self-doubt? First, stop living in the echo chamber of your own past. Second, remember that the past is a teacher, not a dictator. Learn from it, but don't let it write your identity. And third, speak back. When the voice of self-doubt tells you who you were, remind yourself of who you're becoming. At the end of the day, living in the past turns your own mind against you. But when you live in the present, with intention, with courage, with self-respect, you reclaim the narrative. You are not your failures. You are your response to them, and your next response can change everything. Number 6. It stops you from becoming who you could be. Let's talk about how holding on to the past keeps you from growing into your future, and why living in the past is the biggest mistake of your life. It's one thing to remember where you've been, it's another to stay stuck there. When you live in the past, you're choosing to stay loyal to a version of yourself you've already outgrown. You keep circling the same moments, same stories, same mistakes, without realizing that the longer you stay there, the more you delay who you're meant to become. Here's the truth. Growth doesn't happen in reverse. You can't drive toward your future while staring into the rearview mirror. But that's what happens when you attach yourself to who you used to be, your former identity, your past accomplishments, even your old wounds. You start defending an outdated version of yourself instead of evolving. And in doing so, you don't just stop growing, you slowly kill your potential. Because no matter how much wisdom the past holds, it will never match the power of becoming. This is where Stoic wisdom slices through the noise. Seneca said, "Don't tie yourself to a sinking ship. Your future deserves a captain, not a ghost." Read that again. You can't guide your life forward if you're haunted by who you were. You need to lead it, intentionally, courageously, with both hands on the wheel. Because every time you anchor yourself to a past identity, you abandon the opportunity to rewrite your future. Let me tell you a story. A woman I know, let's call her Rachel, used to be defined by her success as a college athlete. She was admired, disciplined, and full of drive. But after graduation, she lost that sense of direction. For years, she kept trying to relive her glory days, joining rec leagues, hanging on to old routines, measuring her current self against her past self. And the more she clung to that former identity, the more she struggled to create a new one. It wasn't until she admitted to herself, "That chapter is over," that she started writing the next one. She discovered passions she'd never explored, skills she'd never used, and a purpose that had nothing to do with who she used to be. But none of that became possible until she let go of the version of herself she once worshipped. So, how do you stop holding yourself back? First, stop glorifying the past as your peak. It was a chapter, not your full story. Second, ask yourself what you've been afraid to outgrow. Sometimes growth means letting go of even the best parts of who you used to be. And third, step into your potential with both eyes forward. Let the past inform you, but never let it define you. At the end of the day, living in the past isn't just nostalgic, it's self-sabotage. You were never meant to stay the same. You were meant to evolve. So release the ghost, reclaim the wheel, and become the person you were always capable of being. Your future is waiting, and it needs a captain, not a shadow. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 7. It delays the peace you're meant to have. Let's talk about how chasing the past keeps you from experiencing real calm, and why living in the past is the biggest mistake of your life. You might think you're just remembering, reflecting, honoring what came before. But slowly, that reflection becomes escape. Instead of dealing with what's here and now, you disappear into old conversations, old regrets, old versions of yourself. And in doing so, you delay the one thing your soul actually needs: peace. Here's the truth. Peace doesn't live in the past. It lives in the acceptance of the now. The past may hold answers, but it doesn't offer resolution. That comes from presence. And when you keep running backward in your mind, You carry the weight of everything you can't change. Every memory brings new noise. Every regret pulls you further away from calm. But the moment you stop running, the noise begins to fade. You feel the stillness. You begin to breathe again. And that's when peace finds you. Not in what was, but in your willingness to be here. This is what Stoic wisdom has taught for centuries. Heraclitus said, "Peace is not found in memory, it's born in presence." That one sentence is a turning point. It reminds you that no amount of replaying the past will make you whole. Peace isn't about rewriting your story. It's about accepting that it's already been written and choosing not to carry it with you every step of the way. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Melissa, lost her brother in an accident. For years, she stayed anchored to the night it happened. Every anniversary, she relived it. Every song, every place, every scent became a trigger. She told herself it was how she kept him close. But what she didn't realize was that she was also keeping her grief alive. She didn't allow herself to feel anything else, joy, love, presence, because she thought moving forward meant betrayal. One day, during a quiet walk, she whispered aloud, "I don't want to carry this anymore." And that's when she felt it. Space. Not emptiness, peace. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to just exist in the moment. And in that moment, her brother wasn't lost. He was with her, in stillness, not in sorrow. So how do you begin to access the peace you've delayed? First, stop trying to fix what's already finished. Second, look around. Your life is happening now, and it's waiting for you to notice it. Third, practice presence. Breathe into this moment, not yesterday, not tomorrow, this one. At the end of the day, peace will never be found in something you've already lived. It begins the second you stop resisting the now. Stop chasing the past. It already happened. What you have is this moment, and that's more than enough to begin again. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments. I will definitely reply.